What's up, guys? Hope you had a happy 4th of July. Jeremy Conn here with Pickdawgz. It's the Lowdown. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. That does help us out. The notification button will let you know anytime I post one of these so you guys can see my beautiful butt forehead. I can't stop looking at that thing. It's just, man, it's something else. You always find something as you get older. It's like, I don't like this. I don't like that. But yeah, I had, going back to Thursday, I had a rough day. I went 1-2 in baseball and 1-2 in the WNBA. One of those days where I liked my research on the WNBA, and as soon as the first quarter started, I knew I had lost 2 bets. I just knew it was over with. You'd need something crazy to happen for. I had the Vegas Aces against the Fever. They looked dead in the first and 20-point deficit. What was the other one? I had the under in the Dallas game, and they scored like damn near 100 points in the first half. I think it was like 90 or something. But anyway, that was clearly going over the total, and I think it may have been the highest scoring game that night. So, yeah, swing and a miss by me. And my favorite play in the WNBA was Seattle, and in most places they were -1.5. I gave it out on the money line, and I tell people this all the time. You got to look at the prices and what you're paying for it. But I hate losing by a half. I hate even more losing by a half when I'm only giving 1.5. And it doesn't happen as often as you think, but it happens enough to just piss you off, right? So I did win that because I bet them on the money line instead of that 1.5. And baseball, what did I have going back to Thursday? Had the Braves over. They didn't hit. I had there were some interesting plays. Why can't I think of what I had on Thursday? Because it was a losing day, and usually I can't forget those. So, but they do happen. I'm not one of these guys going to come on here all the time and tell you, hey, I win every single day. I've had a really good stretch here with Pickdawgz. And I talked about it on yesterday's pod, how much I loved Chris Bassett's strikeout prop against the Yankees, and it was 5.5. He struck out 9. And he's not a big K guy. It's just weird, his numbers against the Yankees. Either he loves pitching against them or they just don't see him well. I mean, he does have a 6-pitch mix. But that was a win for me. I didn't post any of that. I just talked about it on the show. I don't think I'm posting prop bets on there yet. Maybe in the future I'll start doing that. But I like giving those out for free when I'm talking about them on whatever shows. When I'm doing the shows the day of, the morning show, which I love jumping on with Jay. So, but yeah, I had the Giants D-backs. My one win I got lucky on because Ketel Marte hit a home run late in that game to put it over by a half. And then the other swing and a miss, was the Yankees and Blue Jays. I loved Chris Bassett, therefore I liked the Yankees Blue Jays under, and he had one rough inning where he gave up, I think, 3, and then the Blue Jays batch just went off. So nothing you can do about that in those spots. But yeah, it was a losing day for me on Thursday, hoping to get it back on the 4th of July. Like I said, I'm recording this on the 4th, but I try not to talk about any of the games that are going on. I don't want it to be confusing. Sometimes I'm recording after a few games, sometimes I'm not. But as far as my plays on the 4th, love the Nats. How do you not bet on the Nats in D.C. on 4th of July? And then I had a couple other overplays that I thought were great. Weather's phenomenal in Minnesota. It's phenomenal again. We'll talk about that. And then we also had, speaking of a couple of the other plays that I really liked on the 4th, what was it? The Giants A's over, Philly Reds over, and I really like Mike Soroka, his strikeouts in the Nats. I mean, that's the early game. It was the 11 a.m. game, so that was one of my favorite plays on the day. We'll see how that pans out. But all that being said, let's get into what we got going on today. So as I tell everybody, I go over the weather. I try to tell you any spots that the weather's 10 miles an hour or more, blowing out, blowing in, left to right to left, whatever it may be. The conditions, but I like talking about the starting pitchers too. I was trying to point this out. We have, what was it, the other day where there was like maybe 2 or 3 games affected by weather to a degree, and it wasn't great. And then we had, I think, 5 dome games on the slate. Now, a lot of the domes are retractable, so I'll try to point it out when I think they may open it up, or at least give you the knowledge of it and then talk about the starting pitchers, because they have to announce whether they're opening the roofs on retractable roofs, I think at least an hour, maybe it's an hour and a half before game time, because it takes that long to open it up. And we'll talk about one of those situations today. Like I was telling you on the podcast for 4th of July, I think the Blue Jays were a potential to open up their dome. Just something to think about. Anyway, getting back to what I do here, and I like talking about the starting pitchers. I'm a sports talk radio host in Baltimore. I've been doing this for 25 years. I think I've been a degenerate even longer. Grew up white trash, try to stay humble. So if you're just tuning into this, I try to be as honest as I can. I'm honest to a fault, and sometimes I tell you too many things about myself that you shouldn't know. So let me stop rambling. Let's get into the games. Hopefully we'll make some money today. Let's start off with the one game I was alluding to, the Angels and the Blue Jays. The Dome might open. It's right around 80 degrees, a little bit above it. That's kind of that. I think 65 to 80 is the wheelhouse for most places. So maybe they don't open it up, but I think it's right there on the cusp, and the wind blowing out at 9 miles an hour, maybe they want to. This is a matchup between Jack Kohanowitz. You guys know how I feel about him. If not, I'll tell you again, he stinks. And Max Scherzer, who... I've talked about this. I like attacking guys coming off the IL on their second start. Sometimes you look at it and go, whew, man, not a good one. Nathan Eovaldi was great the other day. Scherzer was okay, but he did give up some runs. Frankie Montas, who we're going to talk about later, got annihilated against the Pirates. We called that one. Had the over in that game as well. Had his under strikeouts. Oh, God, I want to punch him right in the mouth. Had his under strikeouts. He needed two. Clearly his last inning, as many pitches he thrown. And he got two, including the last batter he faced in that last inning. With second and third, runners on. God, I don't even want to talk about it. It makes me sick. But, yeah, so Max Scherzer now, he's had his two starts back. He does hit some bats. There's potential for long ball. You know, the Angels can run into a few. They've got pop in their lineup, whether you want to talk about Neto and what he's done this year, but clearly Trout, Ward, Joe Adell. There's a bunch of guys that have pop in that lineup, and they can run into one against Scherzer. And he does. Even in his career, he tended to give up the long ball. They were usually solo shots, though. And speaking of Kohanowitz, Blue Jays strike out less than anybody else in baseball. So he's not going to get I bet his K-prop's probably around 3.5. Maybe it's a little bit more. But that being said, when you start looking at the matchup here, if they do open the Dome, I think it's a bump to bats, but I still kind of like the over. But I'm going to lean towards the Blue Jays. It's probably a heavier price tag today. I don't typically like doing that. When I'm doing this, I like to talk about totals because, baseball bettors, it's funny sometimes when you're giving out records because if you're betting minus 200 favorites and you're giving out your record going, hey, I'm 3-1, well, yeah, you're plus money in those 4 games, but not what you're making at the seam. And again, depending on what the records are, not all bets are created equally. If you're laying 160 every single day and you're losing, that stuff adds up. That's why a lot of guys like to be plus EV bettors where you're looking for prop bets that are plus money, so you're not paying that heavy price tag. I did it the other day in Coors, but it's kind of difficult. I got Isaac Paredes to go over 1.5 bases the other day. It hit, but he was minus 140. And when I was looking at the other odds of the players, most of the guys in that game, minus 200, minus 180. That's a lot to pay for a price tag. And in the algorithm I use when I go to total bases or home run percentages, when I'm making those types of predictions as well, and I'll throw some random ones out from time to time, like Byron Buxton was on Friday. Byron Buxton's home run prop was almost the same as Shohei Ohtani's. And just to let you guys know, Ohtani's and Judge are usually the best percentage to homer, depending on their matchup, but they're usually at the top. But to see Byron Buxton right up there with Ohtani, it just tells you how great that matchup was. And Buxton's a great player, but with the wind blowing out, it definitely bumps his home run prop on Friday. So I look at a lot of those things. But that being said, I still like the Blue Jays here. That's what I'm going to make the official lean to. But I think the over is interesting as well, although I'm not making that the lean. Orioles and Braves, and this one's a little bit difficult. The Braves have had a ton of injuries. If you guys just saw, Spencer Schwallenbach got hurt. He's going to be out for a while. This is the Braves. This is what happens. Their pitching staff gets annihilated. They end up calling up some guy you've never heard about, and he ends up going on a tear. What this happened with Ian Anderson a few years ago, and even Spencer Schwallenbach. You could look at a bunch of these guys and how they've taken off. They usually weather the storm. It's an interesting game because it's Dean Kramer, and I've talked about him, being in Baltimore and understanding this team. Totally different pitcher after April. Very solid, keeps you in games. You're not going to look at the numbers and get overwhelmed, but if you actually took out April, which I know you can't, and see how he's been pitching as of late, it's been really good. And he's been going 6-7 innings for the Orioles, unless the Braves knock him around, and there's a bunch of Ks in that Braves lineup. I think he stays in. I think the Orioles are an interesting spot here. It's hard to give any anything out. I mean, with the weather, the wind's blowing left to right at about 10 miles an hour. So this is the one when we go over the strong winds. The Orioles and Braves have 10-mile-an-hour winds, but it's not blowing out, it's not blowing in. So I don't know how much help it is. At times, fielders can struggle with the ball either knuckling or obviously fading. If the wind's blowing hard, you're coming in and you see it going one way, trying to track those down. So you can get those, as I call them, bloops and lucky doubles, duck snorts, all those things that happen in games like this. But I would actually lean towards the Orioles here, and I know they're going to be, depending on what the matchup looks like, could be plus money. It's hard to give a lean on this, but I wanted to talk about this game just because of the way the wind's blowing. Don't just hear winds blowing 10 miles an hour. I mean, you obviously got to find out the direction. The direction is going to tell you whether or not it's an impact for a game or, there's nothing there. Wind blowing out, clearly a huge bump. Wind blowing in, huge bump for pitchers, obviously. But I would lean Orioles in this. I think it's going to be even money, plus money, depending on who the Braves throw out there. I'll try to pop back on and give you my thoughts on this once the Braves announce their pitcher. I'll post it in the comments tomorrow. Well, today, I guess it would be. But anyway, you guys get what I'm saying. So I would lean Orioles there. Let's get to this next game because I like this a lot. This is you get these types of matchups, and it's one of those games you want to watch. It's the Astros versus the Dodgers, and it's Framber Valdez versus Shohei Ohtani. The wind's blowing out at about 8 miles an hour. It's mid-70s here. The one thing I know here is I think Shohei Ohtani, he's getting stretched out. This might be a game where he goes 3 innings. We'll see. It depends on if he gets in any trouble. We know he's a phenomenal pitcher. The one thing about him is he does walk guys. And when he's struggling, that's usually where it is. He's usually not hitting bats. He's usually struggling by putting guys on base and then getting nickel and dimed or giving up the long ball. So I'm going to lean towards the under here, even with the wind blowing out. The Dodgers are going to go to a bullpen game more than likely after Shohei. I like the Dodgers bullpen. And who's the one kid was supposed to pitch on the 4th of July. Let me look him up. I hate when I do this. I'll just have to get to my algorithm real quick and see this. Everybody talks about how much I use the word algorithm on my show at home in Baltimore, so I always say drink when I say algorithm, but I like to let them know where I'm getting the information from. Is it Kasparian? That's the kid. He's not very good. Let me see what they had here. Yeah, Ben Kasparius. Not very good, but he's been the long guy, and I like the fact that if he is going to go in some capacity on the 4th, then for today, you'd have to think they're going to go with some of the better bullpen arms and maybe not a long man, depending on how much trouble Ohtani gets into. So I like the under there. I would lean towards the Astros as well, but I'd make the under the official lean. I just think it's an interesting spot. And the last game, before I get to that, as I like to tell you, the weather today, strong winds all over 10 miles an hour with the Twins, the Orioles, the Athletics, the Cubs. You guys can probably tell if I'm not giving out a free play on one of those games. There's a good chance I'm going to be on some of those, but I'm going to find the best spot for the weather play of the day. I'm going to find, the best spot, I believe, for the 5-star play of the day or my personal favorite. I think when I list those guys, you can actually read them and tell which one is my favorite because I usually list it, but most times it's going to be the weather play of the day because it's going to have an impact. But there are days where weather doesn't have a huge impact on games. So with my premium picks over there, still hitting at a great clip, even though I didn't have a winning day on Thursday. But, with football right around the corner, I love baseball season, but, you get closer and closer to football and you start to get antsy. And I don't even know if I'm more excited for college football or pro football. But after watching the Orioles this season and how much they've disappointed, football can't get here fast enough. So let's do this. Let's talk about this last game here with the Yankees and Mets is what I wanted to get into. 85 degrees, winds blowing out at about 8 miles an hour. Now, when I look at the matchup, I told you I attacked Frankie Montas in his last start. It was a perfect situation, at least for me, because the weather was off the charts great. It was some of the best hitting weather of the weekend. And the Pirates had it all weekend against the Mets. You saw those ridiculous scores and how they beat the Mets' ass in every game. Pirates and Marlins went on a tear here recently. So as I look at Frankie Montas, I'm not going to fault him for that last start because he looked really good in his first. I think he's somewhere in between. Is there do you guys like the whole revenge narrative stuff going up against the Yankees where things didn't work out for him and now pitching for the Mets? Carlos Rodon, I think people wanted to write him off. The guy sweats in the shower. I've talked about it. He's probably going to change his jersey 5 times in in a game that's in 60-degree weather. So God forbid what he's going to do in 100-degree weather. But it's about 85 degrees here. And as I said, the wind is blowing out, so it's a bump. But both of these guys can strike out bats, especially Rodon. And this Mets team and this Yankees team, Mets have been better against, eliminating some of the strikeouts. They've been a better team at it. And I talked about this with Chris Bassett when he was facing the Yankees. Yankees strike out there's only 3 teams in baseball that strike out more than the Yankees. So they are a swing and miss team, even though they will make you work. I'm going to lean towards the under here. This is going to be my free play with the under. Even with the wind blowing out, I just think the pitching matchup's too good. And the way that the offenses have looked for some of these teams, and it'll be exciting seeing Juan Soto go up against the Yankees. It'll be a fun time. But that being said, guys, I hope you have a great Saturday. I'll be back on Sunday with another podcast. So, and again, I'll be chiming in on this one in the comments just to let you know and update some of the things that are going on here. Hope you guys enjoy your Saturday.